moms and dads. I wanted to take a minute to teach you a little bit about the Montessori 3-period lesson. This is how we teach letter sounds, this is how we teach numbers, a lot of vocabulary and all of that. So I thought I would give you a lesson so that you can take that lesson home and share it with your children. So for example, if we're teaching numbers, the biggest thing with the 3-period lesson is to do 3 things at a time. More tends to be too much, less can sometimes help if a child is struggling. So for example, if we're going to learn 9, 8, and 7, the first step of the 3-period lesson, the first period, is to first introduce each item in isolation. For example, I would say, this is 7. 7. Now it's your turn to trace and say 7. And then the child would practice 7, saying and saying 7, tracing and saying 7. Once that's done, I would put it away, and usually I turn it upside down just so that the child isn't distracted by number 7 when we move to number 8. And then I would say, this is number 8. 8. And then your turn. Can you trace and say 8? 8. And then same thing with 9. This is 9. Please trace and say 9. And that is the first period. So the first period is this is. This is just giving the information. You can do this with colors. You can do this with pretty much anything. You can do this with foreign language as well. So then we enter the second period. So the second period deals with recollection. And so this is where show me where it is. So then I would put 9, 8, and 7 on the table. And I would ask the child, can you please touch 7? So then the child might touch 7. Ooh, can you trace and say 7? And then the child would trace and say 7. And then I would repeat with different numbers. I might ask the child, can you put 8 in my hands? Can you put 9 over here? Can you put 7 over there? Just to kind of give that practice towards mastery. If a child does the wrong thing, if I say, please trace and say 7, and the child traces 8, don't interrupt, let it happen, and then just go back to period 1 after that. So just, if the child goes 7, you say, thank you, and then you take them away and say, let's do this again. This is 7. Can you trace and say 7? So then you're just reteaching, you're not correcting. When the child has a mastery of the second period, which is show me where is, trying to kind of test for mastery, then you would do the third period, which is what is. So now you're officially going to see if mastery has been acquired. So then I would give to the child this one. I'd say, oh, what's this? And then if the child has mastered it, he would say, oh, this is 7. Or she would say, this is 7. And if they say 8, then you just put it away and you'll just do that lesson again on a different day. No need to correct it or anything like that. It's just a matter of reteaching. This is a period the third period, I really like to have fun with. I'm like, ooh, close your eyes, put your hands out, and I'm going to give you a number. And then kind of making it a little bit dramatic is always fun, and the children really appreciate that. So that's the third period. So just like we did with numbers, we could do that with letter sounds. This is k. K. And then again, the first period is this is a and b. So again, period 1, this is and in isolation. Then period 2, we would bring all the sounds back and say, show me k, show me b, show me a. And you want to give the children as much opportunity to say those sounds. So can you trace and say a? Can you trace and say b? Can you put b in my hands? And then can you trace and say b? Things like that, to really give them lots of opportunities to say the sounds or the numbers, depending on what you're working, or if you're working on new vocabulary, to work on that as well. And then the second period, once you have that mastery, it's kind of like, the test. Then you would go to the third period, which is what is. What's this sound? Well, always, again, and this is back to being done in isolation. What's this sound? B. What's this sound? A. etc. So not only is this a great way to teach the children new vocabulary, numbers, and sounds, but it's also a great way to assess them, to see where they're at. Because I think that's the thing that Montessori teachers learn so much about is observation and assessing children's progress through the use of the materials. So that I wanted to make sure that you parents have that tool as well at home so that you can assess your own children and kind of see where they're at. You could do with teens, for example, and then you can even do it just, you can test that third period when you're maybe at home reading a book, say, oh, what number is that on the page? And then maybe your child will say 11 when it is 11, and then you're like, okay, this gives you a clue that that number has been mastered. And yeah, so there you go. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an example, and you can do that with, many different things, pretty much anything. So I can't wait to hear how that helps you, and yeah, give us your thoughts. See ya.